But I'm glad people can go back to the video and be like, she did say that because there was absolutely no way possible that was going to occur. So I like to focus on facts and positive things. And as you said, people are there, they need some things to watch. So take advantage of these things. So, as a friend said to me, I use the opportunity to pioneer. How can I switch things up and still be in my realm and still uplift people and uplift myself? Because this is a grand opportunity. It's bad, yes, but Corona is forcing us to put.
Hey, welcome to Travel Tuesday Happy Hour, where we interview dope people doing dope things. And today we have a wonderful guest today. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Shuga Henry, and I am thoroughly excited to be here.
Hey, that's amazing. So, Sugar, so what do you do?
Well, I'm an actor normally, so I act and sing in plays throughout the United States. However, due to Corona, she shut my full business down, but that's okay. So now that I'm not doing that, I do a lot of things online. I teach online and just keep on pushing through with my entrepreneurial spirit to see what I can make happen in this time of Corona.
Awesome, awesome. So, what type of work do you typically do? Is there a particular genre or whatever moves your fancy?
For like normally in the theater,
Yeah.
it'll be musical
Yes.
theater. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm a
Okay.
singer, more of
Mm-hmm.
a mover, not a dancer, I'll say. But yes,
Okay.
musical
Is it more?
theater.
Is it more drama? Is it more classical theater?
No, not
Kind of
classical.
like.
So I don't do Shakespearean, like true musical theater. So Hairspray, Greece. Well, I've never been in Greece, or Chicago, or
Okay,
things like that where
Oklahoma.
they're singing. Yeah, singing. I haven't been in that one, but more singing and dancing. But yeah, within that type of realm. And then when I'm not singing on stage, I sing jazz and gospel, and I kind of do those projects on my own. But then that's been impacted, period, too, due to Corona. So it's a little bit of everything as it comes to entertainment.
So have you been in the creative space all your life, or this is something as you became an adult that you wanted to start doing?
No, always. I've always been interested in writing. I used to write little books. Well, I'm originally not from this country. When I came to this country, I'm from Jamaica. So I've always
Okay.
done little plays. They will force my cousins to be in plays because that's what you have to do. Cousins are your first friends. But when I came to this country, my father introduced me to The Sound of Music and The
Okay.
Wizard of Oz because it was playing on television. And when I saw Maria spinning around on that hilltop, I just knew that the hills were alive with sugar and I needed to be there. So since then, I just did my little place in church, and then I just kind of been on that journey since childhood.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. So you've been a character for as long as you can remember.
That's kind of you to say it like that. I'm sure a few people will agree. They're like, oh, she's the character, all right.
There you go. So what got you
It's
into
fun.
traveling?
Well, I just have, I guess, wanderlust. Before I even knew what that word was, I just always have a thirst to discover other cultures and other environments. And my parents, we would drive to Canada often because my mother's brother is there. And I remember always looking out in the window and looking at the signs and just enjoying all of those things. And then when I had the opportunity to start driving, I drove away and I never turned back. So it's always good just to see other cultures and see what people love to do and what's different because the more you know, I feel the better it is in terms of people communicating and connecting to each other.
That's dope. That's dope. So like what has been, let's say, your most memorable trips, like maybe top three memorable trips?
I was trying to think about that because thanks to theater, I've been able to kind of go through the entire country. So I have a good idea of all the regions. What has been? Well, I always love going back to my country. So it doesn't matter how often I go back there. That's always going to be my number one, going back to Jamaica. London. 2 years ago, I had always dreamt of going there, and I finally was able to go there, and that was truly sensational. I love it. I could live there. They were so pleasant, so I enjoyed that. And traveling to Mexico. which that was my first trip outside of going to Jamaica when I was 19, and I ventured there on my own. So I'm also a solo traveler. And it was just spectacular seeing the culture and learning about the Mayan cultures and learning about the Spaniards' influence in the country too. So it was just truly dynamic. Those have been my top so far.
Yeah, that's dope because I've always wanted to go to London and I've yet to make it there. I've gotten so close, but sometimes, it's if it's not meant to be, it's not to meant to be. And I
Not
usually try
yet, but
not
it's
to,
coming.
I usually try not to force my trips.
I feel you.
So what keeps you traveling? Aside from theater, right? What really drives you to really, because you mentioned earlier, it's about the experience that you
Mhm.
get and the wanderlust, right?
Yes.
What maintains that energy of a wanderlust? Because we all, for those of us that travel, we know waiting on the lines to get through security, waiting to get on the plane, waiting for it to sit down. There's some trials and tribulations before that enjoyment occurs, right? But what keeps you going and wants you to continue to be like, I want to go?
Well, firstly, I try my hardest to live life during off-peak hours. So all those lines and things that you're talking about, I've done a spectacular job thus far in life avoiding all of them. So I kind of schedule my tickets during times when the masses are not going, and I've done spectacular. So I'm gonna keep sending out that positive energy because I can't stand a line. But I don't know how to stay still. Like the world is so big with so many different people to meet. When people are like, I'm lonely, I'm like, why? There's so many people in the world. And now we have social media and the internet, reach out and touch somebody, but not really touch somebody, corona. But you know what I'm saying? Like there's so many things to discover, so many cultures to just learn about and embrace. And I just know I don't even have enough years to explore them all. So while I do have the time, I must see them all.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like, so for a person that can't sit still like yourself, right? We're in a time where we're kind of forced to somewhat sit still, right? And in this time that we're kind of forced to sit still, we kind of have to kind of come face to face with the grim reality of what's going on in our world, right? More specifically, where we live and how we as the diaspora are treated by, of course, the Caucasians or the system, so to speak, right? How have you dealt with being a person of color traveling? Has this given you a time to reflect and be like, maybe they said that thing in a way that I wasn't expecting it to be racist or prejudiced, but because you're such a positive person, you didn't consume that and allow that to be you. But have you felt at times while traveling that, either as a person from the diaspora or a black or a woman from the diaspora while traveling?
Well, this movement hasn't increased any awareness for me. If anything, it makes me feel a little annoyed about the people that now are woke. They're 25 to 30 years old. They asking me about, can you recommend films? No, I can't, because you're too grown. For your 35 to 50, I can't give you a literary list of what you need to read up on because you've been present. So that annoys me. I had to talk to a few of my Caucasian friends that want to let me know they're there for me. How? Because your skin is white and mine is still black with or without movement. So that's been annoying. I just would like everybody to get out my face because the Black Lives Matter movement is going on with me for many, many years. And even after this time, I don't want it to be a trend, but you know how it works here in America when it comes to black things, I will still be black. So traveling and making discoveries happens to me often. I went to school in the South. That is when I think I really learned it because coming to the country and being in New York, you didn't really encounter that because all my communities were Black or Caribbean people. The only thing that was different was there's like cultural differences. So my American friends, they kind of put me onto American things, even something as simple as like Wendy's, because I never understood why the burger was square and the fries were so big. But going to school in the South, all of a sudden, some of the films I used to watch became a reality to me. Or when I would be with my guy friends And then we will always have to be stopped. And I never understood, or you learn not to speak up or ask too many questions because it could result in a negative mean. So that is when that first came to me. And then traveling with theater even more depending on the area. But then that's why it was always so important to have other Black people there. But then when you don't, you have to deal with people being naive. And in the theatrical industry, it's like a double dose. So you're dealing with society, then you're dealing with them always want to put you in stereotypical things. So you have to speak up for yourself and keep teaching people. So that's annoying. But my most recent in this time is exploring New York because, as you said, you have to stay. So I have became curious and explored the state parks in New York. So that's been good. And I traveled upstate, and I had my first racist encounter because normally I don't have my racist radar on in the north per se, because I know that's always been an area where they kind of silence. But I guess we're living in Trump days, so maybe it's different clearly. But that was the first time where I had to like really put on my guard. I'm like, I'm upstate, even though I'm in the north. There's still racists up here as well too. So that took me a little bit aback, and so I had to adjust. But it never is something you ever get accustomed to. You have to always adjust, and I think it always startles you whenever you encounter it.
And I appreciate you sharing that. I one thing that I actually wanted to go back to is you mentioned your experience in theater. It's a double-edged sword, right? It's not only that you're a woman of color, but you're also a woman that doesn't fit a particular look, right? Because in the past I've had friends who were in theater, and they would be completely amazing for the role, but they're not 6 foot tall, 150 pounds, and look like Judy Garland, right? And so it sounds like you're and I'm going to go back to something else that wasn't discussed. Our pride in knowing where you're from, right? The Jamaican heritage, the West Indian heritage creates this sense of pride in us that allows us to kind of push through a lot of these disparities in our professions. What was that really what drives you to be like, I don't care what you expect me to look like. I'm the best in what you're asking me to do, and I'm just going to do it. Is that what was kind of driving you there?
Yeah, it is. Like there's a fire within me. I think it comes from my father's side of the family. They all kind of seem to function that way. And yes, being a Jamaican, what is I think is a gift to me, not coming from this country, but growing up partially in this country, I have two different perspectives. So some of the oppressive feelings that maybe Americans may experience coming from another country is not the same thing because we were introduced. However, you're still always startled because you might have heard it. And then when you come to America to experience it, it's totally different than what you saw in the films or you heard. But it still does give you a different perspective. And I think that's what allows you to fight a little bit harder. But I'm driven. So there's only but so much I can allow a person to do. I know ultimately it doesn't matter what anybody says. If Suga's gonna do it, she's the force. And so you just better get out the way, like Ludacris said, because you're gonna get whatever's coming to
you. That's amazing. So with that said, where were you when you got the news of COVID? Like, were you in the midst of practicing for a play or a performance, or were you just relaxing and waiting for something to happen?
No, I was getting ready to go off to Seattle, Washington. And the numbers were sparking there, but the theater was outside of Seattle, and I had been in talks with the the director there, and they're like, we're in a small town, so it's not impacting us. We don't have any numbers. So I was still going because I was watching the numbers here, and I'd been talking to people in other countries, so I knew it was a movement happening. But I was still going to go to the very end. I wasn't going to adjust any plans until I knew for sure that I couldn't go. And then my friends are like, "You going to Corona Town?" I was like, "New York about to be Corona Town. Are you not following the numbers?" I mean, I didn't know how realistic my insight was at the time, but that's why I still was going to go. And it wasn't until like the governor shut the state down where I couldn't go. And then I was like, oh, here we are dealing with Corona. So that's it. So all of the contracts, summer, because that was in March, spring, all of that out the window.
So how, aside from theater, how else did it impact you?
Well, that's the major thing because I'm an entertainer. When when the MBA closed down, well, my background is in communications, and I also have an emphasis in sociology and media studies. So I'm grateful to my professors because although they never predicted a pandemic, there were always scenarios we would learn about in school. So when I knew that large entity closed down, I knew it was only a matter of time before others were going to, and it was going to be a major problem because it was impacting live audience venues, and I work in that type of environment. So it was kind of just like a watching and seeing and assessing. I didn't really know what to do per se, but just kind of just was observing everything. And then in the back of my brain, thinking about, okay, what am I going to do? Because I already knew off GP, I was not going to let this dynamic take me out. You know, and again, I give kudos to my professors. It was because of those scenarios that we talked about, watching how everybody else was functioning. I knew I was not going to do that. Like I had to find a positive space to put myself in order to gear up for the long road that was coming.
So you want to give a shout out to your alma mater for giving you these
Yes.
foresight?
I want to shout out Lee University in Cleveland, Tennessee, as well as Southeastern Louisiana University in Hammond, Louisiana. I love school.
She got the voiceover voice. There you go. I appreciate that. So, how are you adjusting to the new norm of you know, we're in a place where we're open, at, I think what we're at orange or something like that, or stage 3 or something like that, where things are opening up. And listening to the news, unfortunately, there's going to be another proposed mandatory nationwide lockdown. How are you adjusting as things started to open up, and as a creator, being able to get yourself back into flow? This, like I said, I'm working on season 2 just to maintain content, just keep relevant. I'm leveraging the opportunity that people are sitting down and are not doing much. So how are you adjusting?
Well, I did the same thing. I jumped right into gear. There was no slowing down. I assessed. Um, I told myself I was not. I mean, you have your up and down moments, but you had to kind of like be calm and assess, and that's what I chose to do. I know that people are sitting around and they need to be inspired because also my communication training taught me that the media, their job is to get the ratings. That we're in a time of infotainment. It's not like back in the day with Walter Cronkite with the desk and the microphone and you got straight news. No, no, no. Everybody wants you to tune in and tune in and tune in, and that can cause hysteria. So I said, I'm going to combat this by getting information that is positive to show people that there is hope. So I would start meeting people in other countries that were doing much better than the United States, that had been dealing with it a little bit longer. So I met friends in Germany, I met friends in Japan, and I started interviewing them and introducing them to people on my show. And then I would do content and speak to people on my show, encouraging them. I had told people on my show that Broadway was not going to open up in no few months. You know, they were not listening. I said it, but I'm glad people can go back to the video and be like, she did say that, because there was absolutely no way possible that was going to occur. So I like to focus on facts and positive things. And as you said, people are there. They need some things to watch. So take advantage of these things. So, as a friend said to me, I use the opportunity to pioneer. How can I switch things up and still be in my realm and still uplift people and uplift myself? Because this is a grand opportunity. It's bad, yes, but Corona is forcing us to propel into the future, I would say about 5 years earlier than we should. And I can't be behind the wave. That's just not going to work out. So I'm taking full advantage, meet who I can, and just utilizing this grand space of the internet. I mean, look where you are, and I'm here, and we're talking to each other. Whole new world, brand new place I never knew.
Completely. I can't. I can't agree more. And to your point, it was one of those turning moments. Oddly enough, I don't like to be in front of the camera. But look at me, about 60 episodes in,
Yes,
working on season two. And look, I have you on the show. So it's one of those things where it made the cream rise to the top and
mhm.
be able to leverage the time to be as creative as possible in a positive space.
Yes,
And so, in light of being positive, right, I really want to um, believe that things will get better,
mhm.
right? And so, as things get better, more and more destinations start to open up. More and
Yes,
more people can now feel, because I think right now we were kind of given a wake up call, as you say, right? Um, you put off traveling, you put off traveling, you put off traveling, and now that you can't travel, you're going nuts, right? Um, so once outside opens up, what is Sugar's top five like checklist items to prepare yourself to get going? And because you mentioned earlier you're a solo traveler, so you're
yes.
clearly not waiting on anybody. So that's not going to
No,
be on the
no.
list,
Got to
right?
go on my own.
Right. So what's Sugar's top five checklist items to make sure that she enjoys herself?
Oh, prepare, prepare, and prepare. Because nothing's worse than a fool who do not prepare. You coming up, you didn't get your clothes right, you didn't get your itinerary right. That is the beginning of the end of a terrible trip, and I can't have that. So prepare, research, and like thoroughly research, because as a solo traveler, as a black woman, you have a whole nother level of preparation that you need to do, as opposed to other people of a different persuasion. So I kind of look into where I want to stay, what is the demographic like, whether it's international or domestically, what's the activities, just so that I know how to maneuver myself well. Budget, okay, because it's a good time, but I'm not falling out of control or laughing to the bank. Maybe a little smirk here and there. So I want to come back and still be able to smirk. So you want to make sure that you budget and dress for the occasion. So get all of the proper clothing. Even if you're going to someplace sunny, you want to make sure you bring something for the rain, because you just truly never know. And travel with my technology, but know how to travel with all your things safely. So if you're traveling with cameras or you're traveling with your phone, which would be the international code, how would you make calls? Just from the tech part, just know your safety too. So those are my top five. Prepare and get all those things in between.
Okay. So does Sugar have a bucket list? And if you do, what's five countries on your bucket list that you would, you know, before you go and be forever eternally happy, what would be on that list?
I have a calling to go to Australia. I don't know what it is about that place, but it's always on my mind.
I'm telling you,
So,
it's the mystery of traveling in time for Australia for me.
oh my gosh, like I just don't understand what it is. So Australia is number one. I'll be so thrilled when I finally get there. Greece, I would love to go to Greece. Spain. Africa. I cannot tell you what country in Africa, but just get there and just to be there at the beginning of humankind, according to anthropology, not opinion, but facts for those that can look it up. But it would be nice to be there at the birthplace of that and kind of see Israel. I would love to venture there as well. And let me see, is there anywhere else? Oh, and Brazil.
Nice, nice. What I mean, you gave it a cute, awesome theatric explanation of everywhere else except for Brazil. So, what about Brazil makes you want to go to Brazil?
Well, firstly, so you could say and roll your R's like Brazil, you have to go just for the roll of the R. So that's the beginning of it. And it just looks like a very beautiful place. And from a ethnic perspective, in terms of being a person of color, that history there is very unique and interesting. So just being able to dive deeper in and understanding more of what the Black people go through, why they want to watch sometimes those cultures out of this, out of their bloodline. So from a historic perspective, I think that's interesting. But then the people just seem very rich, and the colors are vibrant, and the culture is fabulous. So I just want to be able to, just be there and just experience all of that. It'll be fantastic. And of course, roll the R, Brazil.
Brazil. There you go. There you go. So I really want to thank you for doing this. I really want to thank you for doing this. So tell us where we can find you, what information people can find about you. Do you have any of your plays that are on YouTube or Instagram or something where they can see?
Yes.
Tell the people where they can see you.
Well, no place because of the rights. It's all about the rights. However, you can find me singing. So if you just type in Shuga Henry, you can find me all over the internet. In addition to that, due to Corona and having to switch and pioneer, I've started my own outdoor company, and it's called Spirit of Adventures Outdoor Tours. And I specialize in outdoor tours in New York State and first-time camping adventures. So that's exciting. And also I run a show named Shuga Says, because Shuga has a lot to say about everything. So that's how people can find me.
That's great. Well, I want to say thank you, Shuga, for jumping on and really sharing your story about your travel, about your acting, and so many other things that you do. So I am honored to really have you on the show. And the energy was amazing. I'll just be honest with you. So thank you very much.
I got to spread that joy and jubilation. That's what it's all about.
There you go.